Welcome back everyone to another top 5 list. This time me and Melissa Makak of Room 51 have gone through our top 5 IP based games. Now, because of my amazing recording skills, this is going to be audio only, so sorry about that, but sit back, relax and enjoy listening to our top 5 list. Let's take it away. Hello everyone, today I'm joined by Melissa Makak from Room 51. Very nice to have you here today.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
That's all right. Okay, so today we are here to talk about our top 5 IP-based games. Now, I do have a couple of honourable mentions for at the end of the list. And, well, first of all, how did you work out what your top ones were?
Yeah, so I try to pick games from different IPs. So I didn't want to share an IP for two of the games because it's only a top 5 list, right? And I picked it based on how much I like the game. That's how I ranked it, how much I like the game. And then I picked games that I felt like the theme really came through from the IP.
Yeah, very much so. I think I've gone for ones where maybe the theme shines through, like you say, but also I've tried to make it so they're still relatively easy to get to the table and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So no like super heavy like Star Wars games, slight spoiler there, but we shall see. So let's kick it off. Would you like to go first with your number 5?
Sure, my number 5. So I did not follow your rule at all because this one is definitely not easy to get to the table, set it up, and everything. It is a bear of a game. But my number 5 is Arkham Horror, specifically second edition. Now I have to say that since third edition has come out. Second edition, which I believe is out of print, unfortunately, for now. But yeah, I love the Cthulhu theme, and I think that this one, it takes a certain type of person to really like it. I know a lot of people like Eldritch Horror. I've never played that one, but I like this one. I think that the character of the game comes through, and yes, there's randomness, but there's randomness in the books and everything, and it's all about like how luck just sometimes isn't on your side and sometimes it is. So I think that comes through. I love role playing as the character that I get, and going through it and just RPGing it out. So that's my number 5, Arkham Horror, second edition.
Any reason why not the third? Have you not played it yet, or is it not maybe not ticking the right boxes for you?
I have not played third edition, and I'm a little hesitant to like look at it because I know it combines things from like the LCG, and then like it's like a mishmash of things of the Arkham Horror realm. I don't know why they called it third edition. They could have just made a totally separate game and kept the second edition continue in print. But I would like to try it out just to see.
Well, if you like that, I think you probably would like Eldritch Horror even.
Or,
I think it's got very much the same vibes.
mm-hmm.
A little bit longer perhaps, but yeah. That is not my number 5, one that takes... basically, you're talking about taking Cthulhu for the whole world. I'm talking about one shark causing a lot of havoc, and it's Jaws.
Okay.
It was a surprising one, really. You get the game, it's in 2 halves. The first half, the shark is sort of nipping in and out with hidden movement, trying to eat the swimmers from the beaches, while the other players are trying to drop barrels over them and harpoon the shark and things like that to try and like locate it. And then there's the second half where you're going to need a bigger boat, and the shark just slowly gnaws away at parts of the boat, and basically the shark has to try and either kill the characters or destroy all of the boat. The rest of the players are trying to stop the shark by rolling dice before that happens. So I don't know if you've played Jaws, but
I have not played Jaws. This is one that I really have wanted to give a shot because I've heard similar things where people were like surprised by how good the game was because it looks sort of, it's going to be cheesy, mass market, whatever. And then it was actually good. But
yeah, very much.
yeah. So I would like to give this one a try.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I think for me, the hidden movement, I love that sort of logic from other games, and it applies really well to that shark. So it's an interesting application there.
Cool.
So, what's your number 4?
My number 4. So I love superheroes a lot. And actually, I just played this game last night, and it is Marvel Champions, the card game. So this is an LCG living card game, and I feel like it is really cool that you have your characters, right? You could play as Spider-Man, Thor, whatever you want, and uh, you have your deck, and I feel like the theme really comes through where it's like, yeah, Thor could swing his hammer and then it comes back to him and all that stuff. Like the mechanisms really have that feel come through, I think, anyway. And it uses the same sort of like schematics that other LCGs have implored, right? So like Lord of the Rings and like Arkham Horror. But this one is super easy, I think, to get to the table. Actually, just whip out your deck and then you throw it down and you have some tokens, whatever, and you're good to go. And so I actually really like playing this solo, or two player, mostly solo though. I played a player game yesterday. I would not recommend that. That is too much. It definitely overstays its welcome at that point. But solo or two players where this game really shines. So that's my number 4, Marvel Champions.
I've not played this one. It's one of those ones I think like it looks like it's a lot to get into because there's already a lot of it out.
Mm-hmm. Well,
where would be a good start point?
yeah, I think the base box, the core set, has a whole lot already. Like it comes with like 5 different heroes, 3 different villains, several like modular sets for the villains and everything. You could spend plenty of time in the core box before you get anything else. And then with the hero packs that come out, just if you want, you could go ahead and get it. You could totally ignore those if you really like the 5 that are in the box, and you want to just mess around with that. Or like I recently got Hulk just because I really like Hulk. So why not, right? Or my brother got Doctor Strange because he really likes Doctor Strange. But you don't have to get everything. If you're a completionist, you'll probably get it all. But if you're more like me, you're not going to get everything, and it's kind of really fine, and you'll have a lot of fun with what's there already.
Yeah, I think I mean that certainly sounds attractive in terms of it sounds like some games you feel like you've got the base game, you almost need expansion after expansion. The fact that you feel like you can just almost be like, right, I've got the base game, that's got loads of content, I'm not going to need more, but that is my favourite hero, I'm going to pick that one up, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So yeah, definitely. There's tons of content in the core box itself.
Oh, perfect. Okay, my number 4, potentially, I don't know, it might pop up on yours, I'm not sure, is Minecraft Builders and Biomes. So, based on the video game Minecraft, and it does it, again, almost surprisingly well. Again, I think it's Ravensburger.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this one, you've got most of the aspects of Minecraft that you wouldn't expect them to have brought all them through. You've got sort of moving around an overworld because there's a grid where you can move around. You can fight sort of some creatures, some mobs and stuff like that. That's maybe the worst part of it, I think, because there's a little bit of sort of randomized sort of bag building sort of stuff. But then you've got this huge block that you can slowly sort of mine away at, and you can only get stuff that's 2 of the faces is showing to the outside, so it's almost like when you're mining on Minecraft where you're slowly going down and you're like, I can finally get to that emerald or whatever. So yeah, it works really nicely there, and quite a nice production actually as well. Have you played this one?
So this one will not show up on my list. I actually haven't played it. Yes, and a couple of reasons for that. One, I actually really dislike Minecraft, the video game. I know.
Wow, that's a big claim.
It's a humongous claim. I know a lot of people love this one, but I am not one of those people. And
fair.
But the board game actually seems cool. I think I'd be more interested in the board game than the video game, and I would like to give this a shot. I'd give almost any board game a shot, I think. But yeah, this one was another one, kind of like Jaws, that was like a surprisingly good game from what I've heard. So that's why I'd like to give it a try. But no, I'm not a big Minecraft fan.
Well, it might make you a Minecraft fan in the board game sense.
Maybe,
you never know.
Maybe, yes.
So what is your number 3?
Okay, my number three, and I almost jumped ahead to my number two by accident, but my number three is based off of an IP that I actually like. I've never read any of the books or anything like that, but it is Robin Crusoe, second edition, I guess. And I love this one to pieces. This one is a survival game. You're crafting in it. It is super difficult. It's cooperative. I love co-op games, and yeah, it just tries to tear you down. And there's different like events that come out that could like come back to you later and haunt you later and everything. I have no expansions for this game because I think the base game has enough content as it is. It comes with like 12 different scenarios or something. And I've only played the first one about like 15 different times, lost every time, castaways and everything. I could not build that freaking fire in time. But that is my number three, Robinson Crusoe.
I mean, it's known to be that difficult
Yeah.
game. It is. I know a number of the other people in the Dice Tower. They say, Ghost Stories, Robinson Crusoe.
Yes.
They are the ones that, if you want to be punished,
Hmm.
almost,
Yeah.
they're the games to play. Have you? If you say you've lost that first one, have you gone on to any of the others, or are you saving them for once you've finally completed that first one?
I am saving that. I feel like I need to like beat it for like rite of passage to go to another scenario.
Yeah.
But I've heard that other scenarios are actually a little bit easier, and I might start to dabble with them just to change things up. But I'm just so hell bent on like, no, I need to build this fire.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a good aim to have, isn't it?
Yes.
So my number three is Fallout Shelter, the board game. And if this was based on just components, it probably would be my number one, because it's a worker placement game where the board sort of grows over time as different people are building different rooms into their level of the vault. That's not entirely on theme, but you can still go to those. You're going to get the likes of rad roaches and stuff just popping up all over the place, and all the negative stuff comes on these sort of transparent plastic cards. So you take that card and you put it over the top of a room place. So for instance, if there's a power cut, it's like a mostly blacked out transparent card, so you can still just see the room, but it is kind of in pitch black because of the power cut. And then like the rad roach sits on top and it looks like it's in the room. And then you've got like the little vault boy meeple like things that you can use to actually as your workers. It's a really nice one. It really draws on the theme, more the theme from the Fallout Shelter app than Fallout, sort of the rest of the franchise, but a really enjoyable one. Have you played this?
No, I haven't. Actually, so Fallout is a series that I've wanted to play, the video game series, and I just never wound up playing it. And then this one, I know Fallout the board game, which is the competitive version, and then I knew that Fallout Shelter came out, and I was intrigued, but then I didn't look quite into it. And it is one I feel like I should look more into because it sounds like something I would like.
Yeah, if you like worker placement games, it's definitely a strong one of those. Certainly with the way that you are building rooms, which is then building more worker placements like slots
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So like over time, you're making other rooms that you can then go and use. Other people can use your rooms, but then they have to like pay you a resource. So
Uh-huh.
there's quite a nice sort of advantage to getting a good room out and sort
Mhm.
of probably spending a lot of your resources to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a good fun one. I'd recommend it. I'd
Cool.
recommend it over the other Fallout game.
Yeah.
Um, Although I've not played that with the co-op expansion. That might save it. You never know.
Yeah, I've been interested in the co-op version of the Fallout board game. But then I'm like, man, do I really want the base game and the expansion? Do I spend all that money for this game? I've never even played the video game. I don't know. So I have to like think more about that one. But the
Yeah.
shelter one, is this competitive or?
Yet
Mhm.
competitive, just like, well, I'm not sure if there is a cooperative worker placement game, but yeah, it's certainly a competitive one. You're trying to be like the overseer of the vault at the end, whoever's
Yeah.
pleased the most sort of dwellers, basically. So
Hmm. I'd argue that
Yeah.
technically Robinson Crusoe is a cooperative worker placement game.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, my number two is based on one of my favorite IPs ever, which is Lord of the Rings, and this one is War of the Ring. I think that this is pretty much Lord of the Rings in a box, large scale. You got everything. It's this huge two-player back and forth. It took us, me and my brother, we're the ones who usually play it together. It took us forever to learn the rules of this game, and it wasn't until RTFM finally came out with a how to play
Yeah.
video for this that I've been waiting for. Once he came out with that, we were actually able to manage to play the game. But yeah, it is so much fun. The mechanisms, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of rules, but they all make sense in terms of theme and making the theme come out. And the two sides are very different. Where one side is playing the Fellowship, the other side is playing what are they? The Shadow people or something. Sauron's
Yeah.
army.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, they play very differently. They have different objectives that they're trying to complete, and yeah, the card play is really good. The war really comes through, and the decisions. The whole game is tense and tight, and one of my favorite mechanisms is that for the Fellowship side, when you lose characters, usually when characters die, you kind of get to like respawn them or whatever. No, like they're gone, they've died, and you feel that. It's like, no, Gimli, like is gone and died, So, um, yeah, this one's fantastic. So that's my number two, War of the Rings, second
It's
edition.
cool. It's quite a long game to play as well, isn't
It
it?
is, yeah, yeah.
Do you
I
find?
tend
Do you think it
to.
ever lasts too long, or it's just right?
I haven't felt that it lasts too long because I'm always just super engaged in what's going on. I've never felt like, oh, I'm just losing, like, well, even if I have felt that, I felt like this hope of like victory could still be had. I usually play the Fellowship. So, and we kind of start off at a disadvantage, which makes sense for the lore. But yeah, it lasts about 3 hours, 4 hours if you're first starting. But for the most part, no, I feel like I'm totally engaged the whole way. I didn't even notice that like 3 hours had just gone by.
No, fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. My number two isn't one IP. It's not even two IPs. It's basically as many as they can produce. So it's kind of cheating and kind of not. The Funko-verse strategy game. Now, I think probably my favourite would be the Batman 4-pop set.
Ah.
Um, I've also got like the Harry Potter one and stuff like that. I definitely recommend one of those 4 pop figure sets, and probably only at 2 player as well, because I feel that works really well. One person versus another, you can draft your characters, draft some items, and just have some fun. The cooldown track to actually use abilities is a really interesting one, because you've got some skills that it's like, okay, this is going to do could do loads of damage because I've got loads of dice, so I'm going to do something here, but then it's got such a long cooldown. Then
Yeah.
you get other characters that have abilities that shift the cooldown, like tracker and stuff like that. Maybe it pushes things up for your opponent, so then all of a sudden they're not getting that back for a long time, or you can get it back quicker for you, and it's just easy fun, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. People instantly look at it, they can see, oh, I really want to play that character. They don't know if the powers are any good, but you can be drawn to someone straight away and want to play as them. And there's some that are really fun to play, and maybe their abilities aren't overpowered, but they feel stronger. And then there's some where it's like, actually, if I can get this to work, this plan to work, if I can get things in the right place, this character that's not normally very good will be devastating. And I think that's incredible. When you've only got the 2 pop sets, it doesn't work as well, because
No.
you've got
Hmm.
like the one character and then like random person, like you've got like
Hmm.
guard or something like that.
Little
When you
tokens.
Yeah, the little tokens, when you can have, Voldemort and Harley Quinn, and then on the other side you've got like Rick from Rick and Morty and Batman or something. It just gets a little bit weird, a little bit fun, and stuff like that.
Yeah, this would definitely be an honorable mention for me. I didn't put it on the list because I didn't feel like, in terms of theme, it's too wacky to make it feel like, yes,
It
the IP
certainly
goes
is
through, you know.
wacky, yeah.
But I love this game. This one is a lot of fun, and I also recommend the getting like a 4 pack at least, but getting two 4 packs or even a 4 pack with one of the 2 packs. That way you could have a full 3-on-3 team. That would be good.
What would you say is the one that you always try and get when you play? Is there one character that you always go for?
The Joker. I love the Joker. I just
He's the
yeah.
one with the little bombs that he leaves
Yeah, he's
around
just
or something,
yeah, he
right?
puts the bombs out and everything. The little like it's just so much fun. I also really really like Draco with the snake that's going around and everything.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I like putting them together. That's so much fun. And then the third could be whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many now.
Hmm.
There's even I think there's more Harry Potter ones that I've not even got, and I kind of want just to keep getting more and more and just
Me
have a
too.
huge like range to pick from, sort of thing. I
Yeah.
think mine, it's close. I'd probably say the Joker's is one of the best because you can use him to defend things around the map, but
Yeah.
Voldemort is just so powerful
Yes.
and everyone goes, you can't pick him, he's evil. It's like, well, yeah, but he's good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know that this one gets paired up a lot or pitted up against a lot, unmatched. Which one do you prefer?
I've not played Unmatched yet. It's one
Okay.
of those ones where I think it was slightly harder to get hold of over here, and it's definitely coming. There's like a new wave of them coming this year, and I think that's when I'm gonna give it a go.
Hmm.
Um, are they actually comparable, or is it just people make the connection?
People make the connection, I think, because both use IPs and you could match up a whole bunch of different people, and they're both skirmish games. But one is much more, Unmatched is more card driven, the combat and everything, whereas Funkoverse is more, dice chucking and everything.
Yeah.
And I prefer that. I prefer the silly fun of Funkoverse. I also really like that it's more objective based, whereas Unmatched is purely knock out your opponent, which is
All right.
not as
Okay.
much fun for me. But the card play is really good. The strategy and the tactics is very, very good in
Yeah,
Unmatched.
that's one good thing about Funkoverse. It's like you can kill someone and get a little advantage, but they're gonna come back,
Hmm.
and you can maybe you've got the advantage to get an objective. And also because it's light and silly, the dice rolling where it's just throw some dice and nothing's ever quite impossible. You could get that perfect dice roll.
Yep.
I think that works well, but yeah, I'll have to give Unmatched a go for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So, what is your number one game?
Yeah. So my
IP
number
based
one.
game, that is.
IP base game, yeah. So this is something you and I were actually talking about before we started recording, and you definitely called it. So my number one is Battlestar Galactica, the board game. Battlestar Galactica used to be my favorite show of all time for up until very recently, where She-Ra, Princesses of Power, came out on Netflix. That is now my favorite show of all time. It is so good. I recommend everybody watch it.
Have to check
So
that one out.
yeah, it is really good. It's a cartoon, but it's very very good. I love cartoons. But anyway, BSG, second favorite show of all time. And this board game is one of the games actually that got me into the hobby. And I'm kind of surprised that I was able to learn the game and play it appropriately.
It's a
Yeah,
heavier
it,
game to
it is
start
heavy.
with, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I didn't know that. I just knew like I didn't know much about board games. I just saw that there was a Battlestar Galactica board game. Love Battlestar Galactica, so I picked it up, and it turned out to be a really good game, which like never happens, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's really good. I love trader games. This one is probably for me the best trader game I think out there. Although this is out of print now as well. A couple of my games are out of print, which is unfortunate. But I do hope for a reprint for this one at some point, a second edition, clean up some of the rules, streamline some things a bit. But yeah, all I have is the base game. I never got a hold of the expansions because they went out of print. But yeah, this one is just for anybody who's played Hydra, that is like the very stripped down version of Battlestar Galactica. It uses that like one mechanism of like the skills and whatever. And Battlestar Galactica, like it has this whole story that happens. Like it's got its climax, it's got its resolution, everything. Right? Like who's the traitor? It becomes a team versus team matchup all of a sudden. And yeah, I just love it. And everybody just calling each other skin jobs and,
Yeah.
toasters and everything. So that's my number one, Battlestar Galactica, the board game.
Okay, well, I thought we might have had a crossover earlier on with some of the video game stuff,
Yeah.
but we do have a crossover with Battlestar Galactica.
Wow.
Yeah, for all of the points you said, it's an absolutely brilliant game. For me, part of the reason the game works is because at the start of the game, everyone's dealt a card from a deck that's too big for the amount of players because some of those traitor cards or alliance or allegiance cards, whatever they're called, are
Yeah.
put to the side for later. There might not be a traitor, there might not be a Cylon amongst the crew in the first half of the game,
Yep.
which means you're normally, if that was the case, you'd think everything is passing, but there's cards added to the deck from one of the decks randomly, and it just means you suspect everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on a minute, I saw you pick a card of that type up earlier, and that's just come out and it's failed it for us. That's pretty dodgy. And, you've got that. And then, just like in the series, there are, sleeper agents in terms
Right.
of, like, Cylons coming out, and, all of a sudden, that one single Cylon maybe has backup.
Hmm.
Or all of a sudden there are now the Cylons because the cards are definitely going to come out, but they might not have just come out at the beginning of the game. And it's just especially the first half of the game. Even if you're a good guy, well, a human, you don't necessarily want to do too good because you might later on find that your allegiance has been switched, and
Right.
then all of a sudden all the good that you were doing has actually now hindered you to winning the game.
Yeah.
um
It's pretty much every
yeah.
person for themselves at the beginning, and then afterwards you kind of know, okay, where my loyalty really lies, unless you're silent from the beginning, then you already know what
Yeah.
you're up to. But yeah, I don't know of really any other trader games that do something like that. um, but it just makes sense for this game because of the IP, and it works, and it doesn't feel like, oh great, now all of a sudden everything I've done, like I have to do something else now. It's like, no, 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 because from the start, like I could potentially be one of the Cylons, even though it's saying I'm a human right now, I think I'm human, but all of a sudden I find out, oh no, I'm what everybody thought, is bad, so it's really, really cool game.
Yeah, absolutely love it. I mean, it's made both of our number ones, so it's got to be a game that
Yeah,
everyone can hopefully everyone can try. Like you say, it's out of print.
yeah.
I actually managed to, I've only played the base game. I have got an expansion. I managed to get it off someone in like one of
Really?
those trades at Essen.
Ah,
Unfortunately,
ah.
ever since Essen and when I got back with that game, there's been a slight pandemic,
Yes.
which has stopped me getting it back to the table.
Table.
But that is definitely one of the games that's going to hit the table when I can get that number of people around the table again, because it just takes everything you want from a traitor game,
Yes,
everything you'd want from Battlestar Galactica as a series, and just smashes them together
it
so
does.
perfectly. And one other thing, even if you're found out, everyone knows you're the Cylon, it's not over for you. You
Nope.
can still wreak havoc,
Yeah.
which a lot of traitor games, if someone knows it's you, you're out. You can't do anything. Anything you say, anything you do, everyone's just going to ignore you and not listen to you. Whereas in this, yeah, you can't keep putting cards into the deck and screwing things up that way, but you can still move around the Cylon, is it the mothership,
The
and take
mothership, yeah.
specific actions. And so yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not short. It might not be for everyone. If you love Battlestar, though, you need to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of my list is long games. I enjoy longer games. But they're the ones that don't hit the table as much, but they're the ones that I like the most. So there's that. But this one, yeah, fantastic. I didn't know that it would be your number one. I didn't realize how much you like it too.
Absolutely. Well, the series is phenomenal. The game actually managed to match it, which is always
Yes.
good. Okay, so I had a couple of honourable mentions. I know you said Funkoverse would probably be yours.
Hmm.
Um, for me, probably because the theming is so weak, almost it's basically a reskin. Splendor Marvel or Marvel
Mm.
Splendor, whichever way around it is. Basically, it's Splendor with a slightly different look.
Okay.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but it's a nice look. The cards have loads of artwork from like 10 different types of Spider-Man from like the Spider-Verse style of things. It's got all the different characters, so many characters. I don't know half the characters that are in the decks. You have to try and get all of the tokens, which is all the Infinity Stones. So it
Mm-hmm.
has a slight twist, but otherwise it's just Splendor. So that kind of just missed the list, as did the Godfather Corleone's Empire by Simon.
Oh, uh-huh.
It's an interesting one that I think that some of the production let it down,
Mm.
and I think the look of the game kind of makes people think it's going to be a lot harder to learn and everything than it actually is. But you can basically like what's it, run down shops and stuff like that to try and get goods. You can whack people off and they end up in the river, just like the not standees, like the little miniatures, just sort of, you can put them in the river and they don't actually bob up and down, but you can think that they are. But yeah, they would probably be my honourable mentions. Have you got any others?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I just thinking about like Disney Villainous is a good one. I think that
Yeah.
that really comes through. That's probably my favorite Take That game. Um, and yeah, I feel like when I'm playing as a villain, like I really feel like I am that villain, and I'm trying to beat
Yeah.
Peter Pan or whatever it is, right? If I'm playing Captain Hook. And yes, that's one. And then I think that another one, I would have picked Dice Masters, but I felt like I do tend to stay with the heroes. It has a whole bunch of different IPs. I don't think that the theme really comes through, but I love Dice Masters a lot. So that one, that missed the list mostly because I don't think the theme really comes through or anything like that. I think Marvel Champions does a better job of you feeling like that superhero. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to also mention like Arkham Horror, the card game would have made it, but I wanted to try to keep it to one
Yeah, yeah,
IP.
no, fair.
And I don't know, I just really like the board game a lot. So that's why I didn't hit the list. But the LCG is really a phenomenal game.
Yeah, I've played the living card game, and I don't know. It didn't. I think it's one of those ones you almost need to commit to.
Yes,
You need
that one you
to
do. Hmm.
you need to like really like, okay, I've got the core set, but I'm gonna need a lot more, and I don't think it grabbed me enough instantly to then want more, that then I'd be sucked in and I'd need everything. And I
Hmm.
think that there was almost like a slight barrier to entry, that maybe if I'd played all of the other, like if I'd played so much of like the Arkham Horror board game, if I'd played Eldritch Horror more,
Hmm.
Mansions of Madness more, maybe I'd just be more into it.
Got
But
it.
I
Mm.
think there was just a little bit, and it was a little bit of, I don't want to go down this path of buying so much stuff
Yeah.
for this. Um, yeah, that one didn't quite grab me. I think the board game's probably more for me.
Yeah, yeah. I would say if you want something, an easier um, thing to get into is probably Marvel Champions. like I said, you get a lot of content in the core. And it's made for like you could play up to 4 people if you want. Like I said, I wouldn't. And especially if you're playing solo or with 2 people, you can really start constructing decks and everything, even with just the cards that are in the core box, I would say, and have a lot of fun with that. Arkham Horror, not as much.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on the top 5. Hopefully, everyone watching has enjoyed. Where can they check you out if they want to see more of your stuff?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Honestly, I was really excited to be here. So, and I was excited that you reached out. So, but yes, people can find me. Like I said, you could find me on all sorts of social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at This Is Room 51. You can find us on YouTube and on as a podcast at just Room 51. And then Twitch, where we stream board games and sometimes video games. But that is twitch.tv/room51 live. And we're actually going to be doing a 12-hour marathon on April 10th if people want to come through for that.
Oh, well, there you go, everyone. Make sure to check that one out. Again, thank you very much for being here
Yeah.
today, and everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.